In what should have been a crowning moment for Spain's Women's World Cup champions has been overshadowed by a bald fraud who unfortunately is not the one we want to get out of England. This is One Kick from Glory. I'm back and I'm joined with Matthew
Hey,
and Craig.
yeah.
And then alongside that, we've also got Arsenal having a very stuttering start to the season. But we're going to talk about all of those things and a bit more. But to start off with, I do want to begin there in looking at what's going on in Spain and the Women's World Cup champions. And I just want to start with you, Matthew. Like, what have you thought about this whole saga and how it's been handled, not just by the Spanish FA, but also by UEFA and just their kind of silence on the whole thing?
Well, before we get into that, first got to say is congrats to Spain women, worthy winners, deserving winners on the day. England women, you'll come back. Next tournament, you did really good. They're so proud. Heads held high and all that. So great stuff. But getting back to the point, it's unfortunate that this whole competition that's to do with women and women's football and moving it into a new age and having us look at it in a new light, that it's dominated by some bold guy, that he's now the talking point since. And the tournament only finished, 2 weeks ago? And we're still talking about this kind of like whole thing. The photo is not great, guys. The photo is really not great. It's just a shame that that's now what we're kind of concentrating on. The Women's League the WSL all around the world starts very, very soon, which more should be talking about that. Any transfers, but we're still talking about this absolute guy. It's a disgusting state of events, and it's just really unfortunate. I'm happy that they're handling it and they're trying their best to kind of like move on the process as quick as possible so we can actually focus on the football. But yeah, it's just a shame that he is still the main focus to his day. He's still in work, he still has a job, and it's just absolutely disgusting outside the game that you don't want to see. So, it's just a shame that almost come after 4 weeks of the tournament, we're back at square one all over again, talking about a bloke rather than their exploits.
And that's the thing. The unfortunate thing is that, as you said, like, this should be celebrating a crowning achievement of the women's team, like what they've done this summer, winning the World Cup, playing some sensational football. I mean, we went into this on the backdrop of several players dropping out of the squad because of the manager and some, just feeling uncomfortable around him. I guess for you, Craig, like, where do you think football needs to go in light of this situation, especially when you look at the men's game and how quite a lot of them were supporting Benjamin Mendy when he was acquitted of his charges?
I feel like the men should need to protect the women because football is a multicultural sport now. Not just men have played, women have been playing, and the women have done better than the men in certain aspects. Like for England, for example, women have done well, have kept the country proud, and you got a lot of young people watching this as well. And it's unacceptable behaviour what the guy did because people are gonna think they can go around doing that kind of stuff. It's not right. In society, even not just in football, in society, people might not like. Some people can get very uncomfortable. So you have to protect the women at all costs and make sure that this behaviour does not happen again. And if it does happen, kick them out, send them to jail. Do what you have to do to get rid of them because you can't have this unacceptable behaviour. If that was in the men's football, someone did it in a men's football game, it'd be outrage. It'd be all over the papers every single day. It'd be all over BBC News. All the sports outlets would be all over. You wouldn't hear the end of it.
I mean, what's the likelihood of like a male president for a team grabbing their captain and kissing them when they've won it? Like, it just would not happen.
Not a chance.
But the fact that this deluded fool thought that was a thing he could do and get away with it, it's just disgusting. But more needs to be done. We'll see how it all plays out. Obviously, FIFA have gotten involved. UEFA, like I said, have been suspiciously quiet. UEFA, you guys need to fix up because, boy, it's not looking good over there.
It's got to be a case of no more empty promises. So you see a lot of these footballers, men included, like they say these things, but when push comes to shove, when you actually want them to do it for whatever kind of reason, they don't do it. They don't follow through on what their promises are. But in situations like this, where we see it in our faces and we know what's going on, there's got to be a time where you got to back up what you say and you got to mean it. So if you're going to hold out a protest for it, do it.
That's it. You got to mean what you say and say what you mean. But we hope that there'll be a resolution to the situation soon and that justice will be served in whatever form and means necessary. And talking about justice, we saw at the Emirates, Arsenal decided to We hear of Charity FC as Chelsea that rears its ugly head, but Arsenal just have this bozo gene that kicks in every now and again. And like last season against Southampton, we decided to not wake up and give them an early goal. Done it again against Fulham. For you, Craig, what was your kind of thoughts looking at how the game started and like how it ended in terms of like just the way we performed as a team?
We were pathetic in the first half. Absolute pathetic. After we scored the first goal we conceded, I don't know what Ramsdale was doing. The ball came. I don't know. I thought he slipped, and when I looked at it again, the way how the guy scored the goal, it wasn't like he didn't put effort. He just hit the wall and just went in. Like if you're taking a shot, yeah, and you have to put power and placement. He just hit the shot, and Ramsdale kind of went like that, and the ball just went. I was like, the way how he got beaten, yeah, I was like, nah, I'm not actually watching this, and then we played well in the second half when Fabio Vieira came on. Professional mention of Fabio Vieira made a massive impact. Eddie Nketiah came on, scored the goal, and then Saka scored the penalty. I think Saka scored the penalty first. I think was it?
Yeah, let's make it 1-1.
Yeah, and then Nketiah made it 2-1. And then Kai Havertz struggled in that game, but I think Arsenal fans need to give him some time as well. I think he needs to get off his back already. Seems like he's getting the same treatment he was getting at Chelsea when the fans were getting on his back. He's only been in the club for 3 games. You know, so he hasn't really settled in yet. I know it's a lot of money paid for him, 65 million, but I still feel we need to give him time.
And I think the other thing with Havertz as well is that we need to see how he performs when we have all of our key players playing. Because we haven't seen Zinchenko from the start yet. We haven't seen Gabriel start much, and that could be linked together. We haven't seen Jesus either. So, like, with what Havertz has been asked to do, and I remember there's a game, Zinchenko came off the bench a couple of games back, and Havertz started to look a lot better. So I do think that, having that connection back might help him as well.
Definitely, and I feel that we were lucky to come with a draw. I think Fulham could have nicked it in the last minute. We could have scored in the last minute to win it. I think Traore had a good finishing about him. He's very quick, but he can't finish. He could have shot that. It could have been a massive shock at the Emirates. Well, it was because we drew against Fulham at home, and knowing we beat Fulham at home. So fair play to Fulham. They did their bit. They did their job. What they need to do to get the point. But we have to look for the next game. We have to be more. We just have to be more streetwise. Know how to like pick up silly fouls and don't concede early goals, and just try and be more ruthless as well when it comes to killing the game off. We're 2-1 up and then we're down to 10 men, and we're playing the normal like late like languid football, not really going to get the third and fourth goal to kill the game off, and that could have cost us the game. It did cost us the game in the end. So yeah.
I think that's a big thing that we definitely need to learn this year. I think there's been a lot of kind of mixed sentiment online from the fan base in terms of like what Arsenal are doing, why Arteta's moved away from the system that worked so well last season, even though we didn't make it over the hurdle, to now just trying out different things. I guess for you, Matthew, when you look at Arsenal and how things are going so far in the early season, do you think the fans are right to feel a bit concerned and annoyed with Arteta, or do you feel like they're missing out on the details and what's really being done?
I think this year is very different from where it was last year. For the first and foremost, you're back in that competition you wanted to be back in for 7 years, which is the Champions League. Now, any football fan knows to be in the Champions League, you need to have essentially 2 squads, maybe even 2.5, not including FA Cup, League Cup, internationals, so on and so forth. So the way he's working it, I mean, I wouldn't be worried if I was an Arsenal fan. You're only 2 points behind City. It's only been 3 games.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that even though you have Premier League proven players, the 2 big massive signings in Havertz and Declan Rice, they've come from 2 different clubs respectively. So it's going to take them a while to find their way in the club, in the squad, with players who probably even haven't started and played their best yet. So until the time when you have, like you said, when you have all the players you want in that squad, the best of the best there, you're not going to know what you're going to come up with. And if anything, it's times like this, while you're still able to pull off a win, it's a good time to pull off these kind of little experimental things. No one in their right mind, and no disrespect to Fulham, I mean, they did a fantastic job on the day, but they would come with something. Their goals mostly came from your lack of concentration. The first goal was between comedy of errors between Saka and Ramsdale. Ramsdale doesn't expect that goal to come. That's why he doesn't really dive. He's like, well, it's 58 seconds. It's not coming. So, and with the Champions League group just announced, your group is a winnable group, but it's still going to be a big toll on your players. Week in, week out. You got Man United next. After that, you're going to have games against Sevilla, Lyon, and PSV Eindhoven. Now, that to me is a group you should be winning, but by no means is it going to be a walk, because for a lot of these players, it's going to be brand new. So that's why we normally say within the first 10 or so games, you know what you're kind of working with. So it's 3 games. It's 3 games. You're not exactly setting the world alight at the start, but look, I will say this. 2007, Man United, I think they lost their first 3 or 4 games. They went on and do the Champions League, Premier League double. I'm not saying that you're going to do that, but you're still kind of... His plan's a little bit different from what it was last year with arguably better players and all this Champions League stuff. So you're going to have to kind of you have to see what he's doing. There's method in the madness, and sometimes it's a case of being 10 steps ahead of everyone else. But I would say by your 6th game, you're going to see what he's about.
Yeah, I believe. I mean, Havertz and how he's playing.
Well, all the whole squad and everything,
yeah.
and because by then you would have, I believe, you would start your first Champions League game.
Yeah, because we've got the international break coming up for this coming week. So that'll be a chance to kind of, especially for the manager, to reset with training, get Jesus in, get him some match sharpness as well, get him back up fit. Zinchenko should be fully match fit by the end of that period of time. And I think we'll have it going away with Germany and a few players are going away. But the ones that are staying around, there'll be a chance for them to kind of refine a few things with them, see if we can work out a few things in what we want to do. I guess just the final thing on Arsenal, obviously, we've mentioned Fabio Vieira off the bench, did really well, really kind of shown, and I think he should be an example to fans as well in terms of that need to be patient, because last season people were saying it's a waste of money, what have we done, we could have bought anybody, and they were listing players we could have bought instead for that same money, and yet you look at him now and he looks like he's kind of unlocked, like he's kind of gets it, like what it means, not just to play for the club, but what they need to have to be in this squad, like. And one of the big things that Arteta said last year is that we don't have substitutes, we have finishers. It's the phrase I took from rugby, in that every player has their part to play. Whether you only play 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or 90 minutes, you all have a part to play. So be ready to come on the pitch and influence the match. And I think that's something that a player that we love, that we don't see much, Smith Rowe, needs to probably get on board with, and I think he probably will. And we'll probably see him more in the coming after the international break. But one guy that I talked about a lot last week, and I'm glad that he's still coming through. You know, he's not the postman, but I give him a ring and he'll always answer. It's Eddie Nketiah. He's got his first call up now to the England senior squad. I guess for you, Craig, how do you look at Nketiah's season so far, and what is the big challenge you want to give to him as the season continues?
He's done well. Congratulations to him. He's done very well. He stepped up yet again when Jesus
was out.
When Jesus has been out, I apologise. Has been injured. He stepped up. He did it last season, and when Jesus was injured, he stepped up. He scored 2 goals this season, two in 3 games. Could have got more, but he's getting the chances, and he's putting them at home. He's unplayable at home. When he's at home, he scores goals at home. Away from home, he needs to do this. Would be a little bit more clinical, because against Crystal Palace, he could have got a hat trick in that game. But I feel like at home, you start him in the home games. Away from home, you might have to rotate it between him and Jesus, but at home, I feel more confident he will score goals at home. And I feel that he'll only get, he's only 25 now?
24.
So he's getting into the peak years as a striker, so he'll only get better. And I feel that the more Arteta works with him, or we give him the time to work with him, he should do well for us, because a couple of seasons ago, he was out the door. That's for real. A couple of seasons ago, he was out the door.
Yeah.
He was out of contract, he wasn't playing. But then we had the Aubameyang and Lacazette situation where all 3 of them were out of contract, or not out, or technically...
One was out of favour and 2 were out of contract, yeah.
So, and then so basically we had to make a decision who we're going to keep, who we're going to sell. So he got rid of Aubameyang, he got rid of Lacazette, and he kept Nketiah. And Nketiah has been... Last season, he didn't really start much games. The season before last season, he didn't start much games he wanted. He was frustrated. But when he came on the pitch, he proved himself. So I feel that that's should be a testament to any football player, amateur, or anyone who wants to be a professional footballer. That's the way you need to do. That's the elite mentality to have as a footballer. If you want to become a top pro, you have to work hard. You're going to get setbacks here and there. They might buy another guy in the same position as you. But if you show that hunger and desire to work hard and be determined you're going to play, the manager has to pick you no matter what, you'll go far in the game.
No, that's true. I guess for you, Matthew, on that note, obviously, right now you've got a young striker, Nicholas Jackson. You've got a striker in Brozier who's out injured at the moment. You obviously got David Fofana who's away on loan. You've got rid of Romelu Lukaku, which everyone says thank you, but you've been there in terms of like, you know, having a striker that you're kind of having to work the kinks out with and stuff. For you, looking at what Nketiah's been doing so far this season, and just in general over his Arsenal career, like his development as a striker, what is something that you are encouraged by and you think could be quite useful going forward for Arsenal?
Just by saying how at one point he was nearly out of favour and out of door is his persistence and his patience. Because at any point, like you said, I think Crystal Palace wasn't looking at him, some other like clubs kind of that kind of thing, which he would have done really well at. He would have done really, really well at, but he wanted to be at Arsenal. And everyone's always said the plaudits about him being a fox in the box sort of thing. And he's been rewarded with that because since that point, year after year, you have to say he's excelled in a way, but not necessarily getting all the goals that you want, but as a player, his attitude, his mentality, and his commitment to the club that at one point when he turned his back on him, you have to say that he's kind of improved on. And he's been rewarded as so with an England call-up, which might just be exactly what England need. We haven't had an England striker like him or someone that plays like him. Dare I say, when I look at him, sometimes I see Jermaine Defoe. I see Jermaine Defoe in that effectiveness to score from literally anything, to not give up on any ball, to keep on going. That 4-2 that you did, the bridge, exemplified that. He kept going for every ball. It didn't matter what it was, stray or this or that or anything like that. He kept on going for that. And England, for that, you know, Abraham isn't in the fold anymore. Obviously, Tony, he's not available. Watkins, Wilson, all that kinds. He kind of reminds me of Defoe in that kind of way. He's just that effective, really, really effective. And it's going to be a very good chance for him to show Arteta why he should be the one starting ahead of Jesus. You know, going to be playing a couple games for England. He's not going to start, but he should play. Even if they're winning, just give him some time. Show him what he's made of. But at the same time of that, what you want with him is the same thing you want for Saka, is that little bit more of a protection, because he's a player that's just starting to rise up. You know, look where Saka is now from where he started on the fold.
It's true.
And Nketiah, I said this last week, could also get to the same kind of level, providing he gets the chances, but also providing he gets the protection. The last thing you want is for him to be injured on international duty, because that puts you at a real disadvantage for pushing for a title, because you need a striker who's going to be getting you at least 10 plus goals, which he should be getting. So he's been rewarded very, very well for all of that. And he's now, this season, on the front of the Champions League, internationals, and the Premier League, he's never had it better to prove himself to be the man.
That's true. And I think it's a massive opportunity for him. And I'm glad that he's got the England call-up. We know the rest of the squad, there's lots of interesting additions and some very interesting omissions. And on that note, I want to go over to Chelsea and talk about the Raheem Sterling show against Luton at home. Now, it is Luton Town, you beat them 3-0. But as I always say in football, you can only beat what's in front of you. And I have to say, I was very impressive. I've been impressed with Raheem Sterling this season. He looks like he's come back fitter, hungrier, sharper. But most importantly of all, there seems to be stability at Chelsea. And I'm saying that with a massive asterisk, because on the pitch, maybe, but off the pitch, you are still a mess. But let's talk about that 3-0 win. Like, how did you feel about his performance and the team's performance against Luton Town?
This is his best performance since he's come at Chelsea by a considerable way. And this is why we took him on from Man City, because he knew he has this in his locker. You don't lose it overnight. I know. And he's 28. He's now a big man in the Premier League. He's a general. You know, he's experienced. He's a veteran. He's going to be teaching the youngers. And
you put him down as one of your generals this season, didn't you, as well?
This is what I mean from him. This is what we need to be seeing: the direct runs, the assists, the tenacity, and the strength to hold the four of those players to do what he's doing. Absolutely stellar performance. He was rewarded with 2 goals, and of course he assisted his guy Nicholas Jackson that finally has his goal. I mean, all in all, it was just a kind of even man the match performance by country miles, you know. But I'm happy to see that, and he looks happier. He does look happy with a little bit of organisation. You have to remember, he spent a good chunk of his footballing career, you know, underneath the massive control freak that's Pep Guardiola. The one thing this guy is used to is organisation, discipline, knowing what's going on, what's the plan, what's going on. And for the first time this year, you know, he has that. And when you are organised and when you are disciplined and you are efficient in the way they deliver things, you see the performances. From the start of the season, his performances have been good. They have been good. I know a lot of fans and me sometimes, I lose my patience with him because I know what he's capable of. But this has been by far his best performance in the Chelsea shirt. And no one can tell me otherwise. Carry it on. We've got Forest on Saturday. That's another winnable 3 points. Copy, paste, repeat for that one. Get some more confidence, get more players in the game, you know, and be the effective leader that I know you should be. If anything, it wouldn't surprise me if he was like vice captain or something behind like someone like Reece James. He's got the experience. He's, you know, he's a forward thinker. He's used to organised presence. And he's going to have to have learned something from under Pep Guardiola when it comes to being a leader. Look at Pep's ex-players.
True.
You know, so yeah, more of that, please. More of that.
Yeah, it was definitely good to see how he performed. And obviously, in the absence of likes of Reece James through another injury and through, you know, the likely transition of players out, like Cucurella might be going, might not be going. It depends what they want to do. But I think seeing him step up is important. Obviously, I mentioned Lukaku's finally left and, you know, that there was a gap then in a vacuum for a goal scorer. But I think if Sterling can do what we know he can do, then Chelsea might be in business this season. But I want to talk about an interesting move. So you're looking at getting Cole Palmer. I want to throw this to you, Craig. Like, what do you think about how Chelsea have approached their transfer dealings this window? Because to be honest, I think it's just shambolic, really. There's just no strategy except for buy the next hot property on the market and see how it all works.
But they're buying a lot of British players. They're buying a lot of like up and coming British talent or players like young players. Maybe they're gonna do what they did like. I remember when Abramovich was Chelsea owner, he used to buy all these players from abroad and then sell them on for big profits. Something what Man City are doing now. Chelsea were the blueprint. They're the ones who did it first. They used to get all these players from abroad, all over the world, put them in the academy, loan them out to different clubs, and then after a couple of years they didn't make the grade at Chelsea, they'll go somewhere else. Like for a prime example, Nathan Ake. He was in the academy for a long time, went out on loan. I think he played one of your title-winning season. I think he played a couple. Yeah. And then after that, it came to a stage where he wanted to play regular football. Bournemouth offered him regular football. He went to Bournemouth.
We had a buyback on him. For most of our players, we put a buyback. Even Tammy to this day has a buyback on him. Exclusively with us if we ever trigger it. So.
Yeah, so you guys, Chelsea always buying these young players and selling them on for profits or developing them. But I want to see, like, with the Cole Palmer deal, I'm a bit surprised he's going to Chelsea, to be honest with you. No disrespect to you guys. I think like he's at City. Like I know they bought Jeremy Doku and they've got Bernardo Silva ahead of him. They've got Grealish, they've got Foden. But he did well in pre-season. He scored a good goal in the Community Shield against us. And I thought, okay, he's going to kick on this season. I thought Guardiola would give him his minutes. But then a couple of weeks later, Guardiola went and bought Doku. And then so he looked at, maybe he weighed it up and thought, you know what? I'm not going to get a lot of minutes at City this season. Maybe I should go on loan or maybe I should go on a permanent, or he's gone on a permanent now. So, all fair. Let's see what he does at Chelsea.
Yeah, I think it's a strange one because you got like, and I know he's a very talented player and definitely someone who, you know, he's actually had quite a lot of appearances in Man City last season. So like, I think he's got over 20 appearances. I think nearly 40 appearances for them in their first team, which was a bit surprising.
Also scored their goal in the Super Cup.
Yeah, he did. But I think for me is I look at your squad. You've got Sterling who plays the same position. You've got Madikele, who we thought was injured, but he played the other night and scored in the Carabao. Now you're looking to bring in Palmer. You also, I know Olise fell through, but I mean, how many players do you need for the right wing? Obviously, we know we've got Mudryk on the left, but like I don't really understand why he's buying so many players to play the same roles. And like for squad cohesion, there's going to come a point when Poch will settle on his favourite 11. And I feel like he's finally getting there, which has Caicedo, Enzo in a form of free role, and he looks very good in there.
Oh, he's excellent.
And then next to them, I think Gallagher might have got the game the other day, but that could easily get swapped out for Lavia. But it's going to get to a point now where it's going to be very difficult to kind of keep those players happy because there's a lot of players you brought in, all on long contracts, big money. Yeah. How is it all going to work out?
He will eventually... Like, I'm not going to say here on something. I wake up every morning and see a transfer and think, I didn't see that coming. The only thing I can think of, which has happened to us a lot lately, is injuries. Two of our good, like, you know, Nkunku we lost, Carney, we lost from the West Ham game. It could be a case of him being frightened of losing any more players, you know. Rather than try and work with what he's got, he's going to say, well, this is not as much Poch saying, but maybe Bodie saying, like, look, I've lost 2 great players in a very small space of time. I've got to back up. But what I think is going to happen is this. With all these players, and some I'm still forgetting off the top of my head, you know, one thing we've learned this year is that we're not afraid to let go of a lot of players, you know.
That's true.
And there's still room for more people to go, you know. I wouldn't be surprised if even some of our newer signings come to the point maybe in January or next summer will be on that shopping block or on that list of being like, I'm not happy here. You know, Cucurella might be on his way out. Lukaku, thank God he's gone. Hudson-Odoi, he could be making on his way to Nottingham Forest. You know, and they're just the ones that I know of. They're just the ones that I know of. So it's a strange one because we've got a lot of players, very kind of bloated squad, which is going to be a very kind of in a very vital season where we need to find the focus. This is what happened, not so much between August and December, but more January to May.
Right.
Because of all those signings we made, we were knocked out of a Champions League easily. We were knocked out of the FA Cup easily. And up until we won that game against Bournemouth, I genuinely did think relegation was a possibility. I could probably count our wins on one hand in all competitions. So what I don't want and what I don't think is going to happen is that again, because it seems like we got a guy who knows what he wants and is figuring out his team very, very quickly. My worry is are we wasting a lot of these guys' time? This time next year, is someone like, I don't know, Mudryk going to be up for transfer?
Well, there was a bit of talk, whether it's true or not, that you were looking at a swap deal for Mudryk between Emil Smith-Rowe. So, and obviously for us, that's a hell no. We'll never do that trade. But I guess I want to ask you this, Craig, about Chelsea. Like, with all the money they've spent, and people have put a lot of criticism at Arsenal to say, with the money we've spent this summer, 100 odd million for Declan Rice, 65 million for Kai Havertz, 30 odd million for Timber, like, we should be challenging again for the title. Do you think that same statement should apply for Chelsea, considering that they've spent so much money and they're still not done? And it is deadline day right now and they're still trying to make moves.
100%. They should be challenging for trophies and a title as well. I think the problem with the media is that because Arsenal did so well last season, they put an added pressure on us to do well again this season. With Chelsea, because they did so bad, not just my foot, did so bad last season, they're thinking, Chelsea in a transitional period, give them time, they need a couple of years before they come back again. No, you spent all that money, you have to be challenging. I'm sorry. It's a lot of money you spent. I think Todd Bowley spent over $1 billion since he's been Chelsea manager, owner already. And I feel that they need to start challenging again, get back into Europe again and trying to go for the big titles, because Chelsea are used to winning big trophies and doing well in cup competition. So the pressure's on Pochettino now. He's got the money, he's being backed a lot, so he has to deliver on the pitch, or else he'll be another Chelsea ex-manager.
That's the thing. It's a big expectation. But I think one team that we expect and think that Chelsea needs to look at as their rival for, in the top 4 spaces. And you did say this as well, Matthew, that you think 1 and 2 might be a lock in terms of Arsenal, Man City, and then it's up to the rest of the teams to challenge for that 2nd to 3rd, 4th. Liverpool. What a comeback performance against Newcastle. Now, Newcastle, to be fair, I thought they would have that game out of sight. They went 1-0 up and they were comfortable until the new divine ponytail stepped up and said, "You're going to put some respect on my name." Darwin Nunez, 2 late goals, and just both of them are just technically perfect goals as a striker. He had a chance earlier in the half when the ball was played over to him in the second half, and he just miscontrolled it with his touch, took it behind him, not in front. And if he'd put it in front of him, I think he would have probably got a hat trick. But for you, Craig, how impressed were you with Darwin Nunez and how he stepped onto the pitch?
He changed the game. Newcastle were cruising. Liverpool not going to score no goals, and then the manager made a what you call a super change. Nunez came on, did the business, and Newcastle was shocked. Any other season, and if this was like towards the end of the season and Newcastle going for the Champions League spaces, and Liverpool just nicked them for the Champions League spot with that win, the manager would have got sacked. Because that's a game where Liverpool down to 10 men. Trent was rattled. Trent was definitely rattled in that game.
True.
He was definitely 100% rattled.
Could have been sent off as well.
Should have been sent off.
Yeah.
I love Trent, but he should have been sent off. No disrespect, should have been sent off. made 2 bad challenges. Van Dijk lost his head.
I don't think Van Dijk's tackle's a red card though. I think that's a massive mistake by the referee.
French was worse.
Trent should have been sent off. Van Dijk should have been a yellow card, to be fair.
It was a bit like yours against Crystal Palace, where it's just like funny ones.
He won the ball, Van Dijk. It's a perfect
But
tackle.
I thought the referee was under pressure in that game to send somebody off because he made an error with the Trent one, and he thought, you know what, I got to even it out now because if I don't,
Yeah,
then it's gonna be an issue.
balance it out, sort of thing.
That's what happened, and he sent him off. Gordon scored a good goal. Newcastle could have scored more. Almiron hit the post. They could have killed it. Should have killed it. Like last season when they beat Spurs at home, when they went 5-1 up and after how many minutes?
5-1 about 20 odd minutes.
They could have done that to Liverpool, sorry. But I feel like Liverpool's got this psychological thing against Newcastle over the years. They always seem to beat them. I remember back in the day when it was the 4-3 games. Always beating Newcastle. It's like Newcastle have not gone over that psychological thing. Like
Liverpool hoodoo.
Yeah, it's like certain teams when they play certain teams. You know what? It's gonna be goals in this today. I know it's gonna be goals in this today. So I do feel like I think Newcastle will do well this season. I thought we'll see how they do in the Champions League, but I think Newcastle will do alright. And Liverpool, if they got a secret weapon on the bench, Nunez can come on and score goals. So I still think Liverpool can challenge for the top 4.
I think for me the subs are really good. When he brought on Jota, when he brought on Nunez, when he brought on Harvey Elliott as well, the way how they were bopping the ball in midfield, like looking at how I think McAllister came off, they kept on Szoboszlai, they brought on Harvey Elliott, Nunez, Jota. The way how they were playing in midfield, I was just like, rah, is this Liverpool? Like they were just bopping, like they kept taking the game to Newcastle. They didn't allow Newcastle to settle and kind of try and dominate it, and it looked good. Now, again, like I think Joe Gomez had a very good game at the back as well. I think there was a bid looking for him. One of the Saudi clubs wanted to try and buy him, and Liverpool said not for sale. But for you, looking at how Liverpool turned that around, like going down to 10 men in a game against Newcastle, a team that have really shown that they are probably the team that will become the next team to make the Big Six. And we're going to talk about the Big Six shortly. But how impressed were you with Liverpool? And do you think that this is more early signs that they might be there and thereabouts come the end of the season?
They're getting there. Very, very slowly getting there. Liverpool are, we've kind of like not ignored them, but we kind of like just not talking about them as much because the main dominating point, because for so long they were in the title frame, now it's your turn. So they've kind of had to fall back to kind of come forward again. But considering they went down to 10 men, great strength of character to come back. Darwin is going to be vital this year. He's going to be absolutely vital for them because the front 3 they originally had now has completely changed. So now you got Darwin, you got Jota, you got McAllister, you got who am I forgetting? Gakpo. That's a very kind of different front 3 that they've been used to. And one by one, they're all starting to chip. I mean, let's not forget, Saudi are also inquiring about Mo Salah.
So £118 million bid, I think they should reject it, personally.
Yeah, I don't think he will go, but this saga's not over. But it will come around to a point where it's like Salah might be looking at his options, or he might choose to retire at Liverpool. Could do that. But no, great test of character, especially after losing your captain. Fantastic goals by Darwin. Fantastic goals.
I will say one little thing just quickly on that note about the Mo Salah deal. I would only sanction it if I'm the Liverpool owners, if I can pick up Mbappe and he's going to come tonight. That's the only reason I'd sanction that. I say, you want him £118 million Saudi? Here you go. Kylian, come to Anfield. That's the only reason I'd sanction it. Aside from that, no chance. To get a replacement this late, it's just, why would you bid that much this late in the window? I know their window is open for another month, but how does it help Liverpool?
No, it doesn't.
It's just stupid.
But fantastic goals by Darwin. This is going to be his. I know a lot of people are putting up against Haaland last year, which I don't think is very fair in hindsight. But this is going to be a chance to carve out what he wants for his game in a brand new season where he's going to have a little bit more responsibility, where always going to be that special, every manager has that player they put on where it's like, you're going to make the difference, which is what he did. So say how Pep looks at Gundogan, you're going to be my guy coming on. This is going to be this is what it's going to be for Nunez. Nunez is going to start more games, I reckon, as well. But no, it was a at St James's Park as well, which is not an easy place to go to. And they were just, for that second half, they were having way too much fun. So the game kind of swung really, really, really crazy all that time. No, they're very impressed, and they're not the complete article. They're not 2019, 2020 Liverpool, but they're going to be building to something a little bit different. This is Klopp round 3, from when he first arrived to the team he had when he won the league in the Champions League to the team that he's going to be building now with all the losses he's had with Henderson, Milner, Mane, Firmino, big losses, Wijnaldum and all these other players. This is round 3. This is the conclusion. This is phase 3, conclusion of the trilogy for Klopp. I think he's going to create another dynasty of just absolute madness.
So we'll see how it all pans out. I'm really excited to see how this league goes. I think it's definitely going to be one of the most hotly contested ones. We know Manchester United are a team in disarray. They got a good win against Nottingham Forest at home, nice little 3-2 win. But we do know that there's a lot of concerns there with how they're playing. They're not quite as fluent, and we're going to cover that game coming up between us and them at the weekend. But one match that I want to hone in on for me, because I think it was a good example for the league that you can have all the tactics in the world, you can have all the amazing master plan, you can have all your XG and your XA and your all this, that and the other. But you know what matters? Putting the ball in the bloody net. It's West Ham 3, Brighton 1. Brighton dominated that game, and yet West Ham managed to get 3 goals and win it. I guess for you, Craig, looking back on that, how do you feel that is as a match and what it's going to mean for the season?
I think all of us here said that Brighton were going to beat West Ham.
We did, yeah.
We did.
We all said West Ham.
I don't think I did.
I did. I
remember saying I thought Brighton were going to win that game. But it goes to show that David Moyes is a very good manager. He's been around for a long time. I think he's third in the all-time appearances of managers.
Or games managers.
Game managers in the club. Yeah. I think behind Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger. I think he's third. He knows he's a very shrewd manager, very firm, knows what he wants to do, sets his teams up to play a certain style of football. Some might love it, some might not like it, but he knows how to get results. And against Brighton, he got a result, a big result.
And you know what? I've got to say one thing that I think is really important as well. He has shown, I think West Ham as a club have shown other teams that even if you lose your prized asset, you can replace them very smartly and get better value and actually have your team perform better. Because Rice, we knew he was a linchpin for West Ham in their midfield and was, the heartbeat, the captain, did so well. And yet, since they've sold him, Ward-Prowse has come in, looks amazing. Alvarez has come in, looks good. They've got Mohamed Kudus as well now.
Baller.
So they've made some really good signings. And you're looking at a team that just looks totally different from the team that we thought could have gotten relegated last year to a team that you're now looking at thinking, well, top 6, top 8, top 6. Are we West Ham top 6?
Yeah, for real.
It's not out the realm of impossible.
I still think they're short up front. I think they get another centre forward in because obviously they're going to play Europa League football, and that's a lot of games, and they're going to play Thursday, Sunday, so they need to...
I thought they signed a striker, the West Ham.
No. Signed somebody.
But what Kudus, they're looking at some striker from... They were looking at the guy from Sevilla, Neri.
Oh, Esneri, yeah. So that's not confirmed yet, is it?
Confirmed yet.
No.
So,
yeah.
But he'll be a decent striker for them, especially in Europe. He's proven in Europe. He scored a lot of goals for Sevilla in the Europa League, so... Antonio's a good striker for them, but he's getting on a bit in age. Danny Ings has not hit the ground running since he's been there. He has
injuries.
Again, yeah. He hasn't really scored a lot of goals, so it would be nice to have another striker to replace Samaka, who's gone back to Italy. So
yeah, they're pushing for a striker. There's also talk that they might give a contract to Jesse Lingard to help with their homegrown quota. So
he's a good player, Jesse Lingard.
We'll see how that goes.
He did well at West Ham before.
He did do well at West Ham, yeah, why not?
Because he's training with them now. He's trying to earn that contract. So we'll see if they do it. I think they're putting together something quite nice. Obviously, we saw other games. Spurs got a nice little 2-0 win away from home, and their season's going well. Maddison looks a good bargain, and it makes you say again, like you said on the podcast the other day, Man United, he was there. Although I do think he wouldn't have fit because of Bruno. Because Bruno, like look at Ronaldo when he was there. Bruno, it just wasn't working. So that would have been a clash of positioning. But there's a player there. And then Wolves, beat Everton. Everton, a team that we're quite concerned about. in terms of how it's going to go. They've gone and got a good striker though.
Scored it. The
He
one
scored
yesterday.
So they might turn it around. They might be okay, but we'll see. Brentford drew against Crystal Palace, and for them it's going to be a topsy-turvy season whilst they figure out things without Ivan Toney. But I guess to move on from the weekend and look forward to what's coming up next, we had the PFA Team of the Season announced. The team, which was, and I'll read them all out. In goal, we had Aaron Ramsdale, we had Saliba, Diaz, Stones, and Trippier as the back. You had Odegaard, Rodrigo, and De Bruyne. And then up front, you had Harry Kane, Erling Haaland, and of course, Bukayo Saka. Comfortable, happy with that. No complaints there. No representatives from Chelsea, Liverpool, or Manchester United. Just saying. Just saying. And then, of course, the young player of the year, Bukayo Saka, player of the year, Erling Haaland. Just incredible season for him and for both of them. And I just like the way how, for Arsenal, it was a good year. And I think those players all got rewarded rightly. Saliba, Odegaard, Saka and Ramsdale, I think they were brilliant. Haaland came into England and just showed that it's just like playing FIFA. He is the cover star for FC24, which is coming out next month, I believe. So very exciting times for him, and Haaland will be looking to kick on again. And I guess the question I want to ask you, Matthew, is do you think he will be in the top 3 for the Ballon d'Or come the end when it's announced come this winter, or do you think it's 1 year too soon?
He won't win, but he should be in consideration. It should be one of those things where when you're talking about it at the table, they're not going to look at you like you're crazy, but he should be in contention. I mean, come on, look at what he had look at what he done. He just, in every kind of way he performed, league, Champions League, whatever. I mean, I know he didn't score in the final, but I think he still did, he was
a handful, yeah.
He was a handful in the Champions League, and I expect nothing less from him this year. So, you can't always just give it to, I know the favourite thing to do is just to give it to Messi every single time, but the trouble with things like that is I think we overlook, because of how good they were, him and Ronaldo, right? It overlooks so many other players that you could argue deserved it maybe a little bit more, albeit a different club that have fought so hard, and not get recognised for it. So I don't think he will win it, but I would like it for him to win it, because I feel like he kind of deserves it. He had a cracking year. And to be brutally honest, off the top of my head right now, on the spot, I can't think of who else would be in that conversation.
Messi, Mbappe. For you, Craig, I guess on that note, because I think the final 3 will probably be those 3, Messi, Mbappe and Erling Haaland for the Ballon d'Or. But if Haaland wasn't to make the cut, who do you think will be the third player in contention against Messi and Mbappe?
Vinicius.
I was just about to think that.
It's a good call.
Just about to think that.
Good call.
I think he had last season. He had a great season. He did well for Real Madrid. Did well in the World Cup as well. To be really honest, I feel that Messi's going to win it. You know why? Because he won the World Cup, and all the sentiments of him winning the World Cup,
and how he won the World Cup.
And how he won the World Cup. Because in that final, it was like watching 2 boxers go head to head. Mbappe versus Messi. Messi scored. Mbappe scored. Messi scores again. Mbappe scored.
Mbappe scored a hat trick and also bagged 2 penalties.
Still didn't win the World Cup.
Still didn't win.
I mean, but I think just the story of it, for Messi to win it, it makes sense. From a football romantic perspective, he's finally lifted the hurdle for his national team.
He's broken the hoodoo.
It's just so much about even the way they won that final. I mean, I was rooting for France all the way, double invested for France to win it. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and that's okay for this time. Next time around, if England aren't in contention, France, you know what you got to do. Vested interest, you know what you got to do. That's what I'm saying. So, another week, another hot take. What have you got for us?
Okay, we talked about this earlier. I think I talked about it briefly last week. I'm going to say this. I think Eddie Nketiah is not only going to outscore Jesus, I reckon he could outscore Rashford.
This season?
This season.
Fire.
I'll take that on.
Like I said last week, Rashford is like the benchmark of what he can be getting towards. And they're not that dissimilar in age. They're not that dissimilar in the position and how they represent their club. So, and, Nketiah doesn't have an activist moment for a year and forgets he's a footballer. There's no reason why he can't reach it.
Shots fired.
There's no reason why he can't reach it. we can't keep putting this whole thing on Rashford being he's young, he's this.
Rashford's 25,
He's
26 this
He's
season.
approaching that general age in the Premier League. He's been around for a very long time. So that's why I'm saying, no disrespect to Rashford. He's a very, very, very good player. But he only really kicked on last year. And, he's been in the club for a very long time, leading the line, being the England fold-up and stuff like that. So this is his chance. This is his chance. On 3 separate fronts. England, Premier League, Champions League. Because you know who else is going to be there? Rashford's going to be there.
That is true.
Pillars collide. And you know what? We're going to find out on Sunday.
Sunday it is.
4 o'clock kickoff.
Find out on Sunday. The last game before internationals, isn't it? Yeah. I couldn't have planned this any better.
Let's speak on that game. Arsenal, Manchester United. Historic battle. I think this game is really going to put the boys away from the men. I think it's going to separate out the boys from the men, just like last season did. But for you, Craig, how are you feeling about the game? Looking at it more from a Man United perspective, what do you think has been going wrong for them this season, and how important is this game for them to kind of have a good result?
They don't have any strikers. Simple as that. They haven't got hitman up front that's going to bang in goals. Like last season, they had Ronaldo. He was banging in the goals. And
Previous
season,
season,
they had Ronaldo. He was scoring the goals. This summer, they brought in Højlund.
Højlund,
and he's been injured with a back injury. And they have Martial, but Martial can never stay fit.
Martial's not even good. I'm sorry. Martial FC,
So
waste rubbish.
They tried Rashford up front, didn't work. So I think they're lacking goals up front. But I know they're very dangerous on the wide areas. You've got Rashford, you have Garnacho, you got Sanchez, you got Anthony, no. But yeah. But then again, saying that about Anthony, he might turn off on Sunday, knowing him. He's one of the kind of players where he just turns up out of the blue, like what, he hasn't done anything for 3 games against Arsenal, he'll just turn off on the gay. So we've got to be very careful with him. Keep him quiet. Because last season we didn't know nothing about him when he played us at Old Trafford and he scored that good goal. At the Emirates, he was very non-effective, tried everything, couldn't. I think Shevchenko had him in his back pocket that game. But this game, I think it's going to be between the shootout between Saka and Rashford, who the 2 leaders, the 2 young future leaders for the clubs. Rashford for Man United, Saka for Arsenal. Whoever scores the most goals wins the game.
I think for you, Matthew, looking at it from a tactical perspective, like what are the things you think Arsenal need to kind of be aware of and also prepare in terms of going into this game, considering how our last few games have gone this season?
Man United have this really funny way of pulling things out of the bag that only Man United can do. So sometimes you almost got to throw tactics out the window because sometimes that's what they do as well. I mean, that's what they did against Wolves. And I'll argue, I think that's what they did against Forest as well. They weren't very good. They've had 3 games and they've been rubbish in all of them. But they just find this kind of, it's like they ride this pressure for the whole entire game and wait for that one moment where one of their players decides that they want to come out and do something dangerous. Their best player at the moment is probably, and you might disagree with me, is probably Casemiro, but he also has a disciplinary problem at the moment. He's very hot-headed, but he comes up with those very kind of like effective goals. I think so. But speaking of tactical, you said that things can be back for this game. Zinchenko might be back.
Yeah, I think he'll be back.
So this is going to be a time where you could potentially see Havertz, where depending on where you want to play him, at his best to kind of exploit their real frailties, because there's really no. For someone who prides himself on being disciplinarian in Ten Hag, there isn't very much discipline in the club. Also, their off the field pressures as well, I think, are quite distracting to the team. They appear very disorganised at times, not knowing who to play or what to play. Maguire doesn't know where he's coming or going. Onana's still finding his feet. Mount is injured. Sancho's not performing. On so many grounds, it feels like this should be a walkover for Arsenal, but we all know that it won't be. They'll come out with something. Luke Shaw might come and do a madness. Rashford might prove a point to the point, in such a big, massive game and reignite the old rivalry. You just really don't know. But it'd be interesting to see what you do with Havertz as the game goes. But striker-wise, because I think Jesus is back.
Yeah, but I don't think he's match fit. But he's back, yeah.
He'll be on the bench. And you'll be arguing that Jesus is they're crying for someone out like him because they don't have a striker per se. So I think what you could do is what Liverpool did to us in that first game, was go for attack, because we don't like that. Because you could do what Wolves did, but score and win.
True.
So just apply attack. There's no need to go defensive against Man United because they're not very good. I don't think any team's ever done that. I mean, I don't think Forest did that. Spurs didn't do that. Wolves didn't do that. But just didn't get forward with the goal they deserved. So yeah, just go out attack. The most attack-minded thing you could think of and punish them. Prove to the world this team is rubbish.
We aim to do that. Indeed.
Sorry, Stephen.
But I guess for you, Craig, like, what would be your starting 11? Now, we've known, like, the last few games this season, we've played 3 different players at left back. Obviously, Timber got injured. We've had Tomiyasu out there, he got suspended. And then we had Kivior last game. What would be your starting 11 for Arsenal against Manchester United at home?
Ramsdale in goal, White centre back, right back, Saliba and Gabriel centre back, Shevchenko left back. In the midfield 3, Rice, Partey and Odegaard. Up top on the wing, Martinelli, Nketiah and Saka. So I wouldn't start Havertz in this game.
I like that team. I would make one change from that team. I would start Smith Rowe and I would put Partey on the bench.
Back.
Or
yeah.
Or if Zinchenko is not fit enough to start, then it would be Partey right back. No, that's against Rashford. That's not that. No. Yeah, that's the team I'd go for. Smith Rowe starting over Partey, or technically it would be classified over Havertz. So Smith Rowe in the 8th position next to Odegaard,
and then put Rice to number 6.
Yeah, Rice to hold
Rice and then Rice to 6.
So you got Smith Rowe,
Odegaard
Odegaard,
8th, and Odegaard is at 8th.
yeah,
and then
the front three is the same: Martinelli, Saka, and Nketiah. That's what I'd go for. Because I just feel like all the talk around Smith Rowe this week about, might leave, might go to Chelsea, all this nonsense. I think, and I remember the game he played when he got the number 10 shirt against Man United at the Emirates when Aubameyang was still there, and he absolutely ripped them in the 3-0 game. Mm-hmm. We killed them in the first half. I feel like, especially when Havertz did that layoff last match, when he had space to turn, he just gave the ball and just laid it back. It reminds me of the Adidas advert when we first got Adidas, the first ever kit. And in the advert, it mentions that, we're Arsenal, we don't hide, we turn and face. And you think about Arsenal players in the past like Iwobi, even though, he just kind of didn't really refine his game enough to still be at the club. One thing he would do is he would get the ball, turn, and he would go at you. He would dribble at you, and that's what Smith Rowe has. And that's one thing Havertz hasn't quite worked out yet, and he needs to learn fast, is that as Arsenal, we don't run away from confronting people. We turn and we face and we go at you. So I would if it's a case of Havertz versus Smith Rowe, I'd put Smith Rowe in from the start. But his first game of the season it will seem very strange. But I would say, you've had a great summer. You won the Under-21 championships. You look sharp. I want you to come in. Otherwise, yeah, I'd go for that same midfield that you said of Partey and Odegaard and Rice. That makes sense.
With the battle, do you know one stat I never thought about? Do you know Casemiro's not played us in a Premier League game since he's been at United?
Shook one.
The first time when we played him at Old Trafford, he didn't play. He was
suspended because the Crystal Palace game got sent off.
No, that was at Emirates.
Oh yeah.
First game, I don't think he was bought yet.
No, they didn't have him.
Second game, he was suspended. So he hasn't played us since. I want to hear all these United fans talking when they have their best midfielder on the pitch, and we have our best midfielder on the pitch, and the battle commences to see who's the better midfielder.
I hear that. I agree with that. I think that will make for a good
Kieran
good
Keane
thing.
all over again.
Yeah, man.
So what's your score prediction, Matthew?
For Arsenal Man United, punish him. Put 4 past.
How many for Nketiah?
1.
1 for Nketiah. Craig, what's your prediction?
3-2 Arsenal.
I have a funny feeling Rashford will score against us, so I'm going for a 5-1.
Wow.
But we'll score 3. And then he'll pull 1 back, and then the players will finally get over this slump of slowing down. They'll have a chance that almost goes in, then we hit them on the break and score a 4th one, then we get a 5th one, then we just close the game out. So 5-1 Arsenal.
Sorry, Stephen.
Is what it is.
Is what it is.
But coming up later on today, we've got Luton versus West Ham. What's your prediction for that game to kick off the weekend?
Luton West Ham. 2-1 West Ham.
3-0 West Ham.
Damn, same West Ham
All
win.
Prowse scores.
Kudos to get a goal in his debut. but I'm saying that. Then the weekend starts with Sheffield United against Everton. Sheffield are at home.
Everton.
Everton win.
1-1. Boring game.
I think Everton's new striker is going to bag, and there will be another win for Everton. They're going to keep moving forward. Brentford against Bournemouth at Brentford Stadium.
Brentford is going to win that game 3-1.
3-1 Brentford.
Win 2-1 Brentford.
2-1 Brentford. I'm going to go for a draw. Burnley against Spurs.
Spurs win.
Narrow 1-0 Spurs.
I'm going to go for a draw. Chelsea against Nottingham Forest. I'm going to go for Chelsea win.
2-2.
And it's at the Bridge as well. Man City play Fulham at the Etihad.
Man City.
4-1 Man City.
3-2 Man City. Brighton, Newcastle. Big game for them to turn things around. At Brighton, the Amex.
Brighton don't lose back-to-back games like that, so I don't know.
And Brighton on the verge of getting Ansu Fati as well.
I think a draw. 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw.
I say Newcastle beat them 2-1. And then the Sunday games, you got Palace versus Wolves at Crystal Palace Stadium.
Crystal Palace win.
Palace Wolves draw.
I think the South Londoners will have that one. Liverpool versus Aston Villa. Liverpool are going to smoke Villa 4-1.
Liverpool 3. I'm going 3-2.
4-1.
And of course, we've already said the Arsenal game. So lots of games coming up. We're going to actually review these fixtures on next week's podcast and see how close up. Actually, no, we're not. Yeah. So we're going to do an underreaction podcast in light of the games on Sunday. So we're going to do that remotely. So we'll see how those games go. Next week's podcast is going to be a throwback podcast. So we're going to have 2 podcasts next week, a reaction podcast to the weekend's games, and we're going to have a throwback podcast midweek talking about the summer, looking at Arsenal. We're going to call it Arsenal Wars. It's going to be quite interesting in light of how the season's gone. It was looking at our predictions for how Arsenal were going to play going into this season. We've got a guest on there. But thank you all for listening, for watching. And of course, like I said, Arsenal are back in the big time. We've got a nice Champions League group. We're going to Lens, we're going to PSV Eindhoven, and we're going to Seville. So I might be out there for one of those games. I don't know which one, but if you see me on TV, you see me. If I'm in the wrong end, I'm there, innit? Don't worry about how I'm there. Have a good rest of the week and see you all next time.
Yes.